Aegon's like, Aegon, the realm's delight.
Delight.
Which is funny because this is what people had called Rhaenyra, but he's like, oh, I could be the realm's delight now.
The realm's
like,
delight. And he said it with such hope and like a little smirk.
I know.
And he's like, the realm's
That's
delight.
Me. Yeah.
And I'm
like, yes, I like the sound of that.
I don't know why, but it was so funny to me.
I know, it really was. But that rounds out that scene. We cut to a very brief scene.
Wait,
where we
I want to tell you something funny I just thought of.
Oh, okay.
All I could think of when I was typing this and thinking about it was that they should make a Ben & Jerry's flavor, like Aegon the Realm's Delight.
Oh my God.
I feel like it would be so funny. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Book of Fantasy podcast. We, Alex and Lorraine, are two best friends who love to explore the world of fantasy through books, shows, and movies, but with a heavy emphasis on books. Today, we're covering House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 8, which was also the finale. Woo! And now we get to wait another 2 years before Season 3.
Oh, boo.
But it's fine. We were discussing a little bit before we actually started recording and stuff, and I felt like the episode was interesting and it gave us a nice full circle moment between different things. I love the connections between, Helena's visions, the Song of Ice and Fire, and then how Daemon finally comes to understand why it's so critical that he supports Rhaenyra, who will sit on the Iron Throne.
From the beginning of the season, this is going to be a building season, okay? There's going to be a little bit of action and major events, but ultimately this season is going to lay the foundation for all the action for season 3. I think I would have felt differently going into it, and I could have adjusted my expectations because overall, it's not a bad season. There are a couple things that were kind of like, okay, we get it. This is boring. We're over it. But overall, it really was a good season. So I think there was just some expectation adjustment here. And I did a lot of thinking about this. And, when you think about Game of Thrones, a lot of Game of Thrones, there wasn't a lot of action until the very end. A lot of it was really character building, story building, and of course things happened. And I think if we had all been prepared for that in the beginning, I think our expectations would have been adjusted a little bit better, and we probably would have been more receptive to the kind of slower burn that this season gave us. So I have some thoughts about this episode, which when we get to the analysis, I'll share at the top of the episode. But overall, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, okay. That's a fair point. I would agree with that. I mean, we really only had one major battle and then I guess a couple episodes with like some exciting things with the dragons,
the red
too. Yeah, right. But aside from that, it wasn't really meant to be a season that was heavy on the actual battles of the war. I guess in retrospect, we realized that this was really just laying the foundation and getting allies and stuff like that. So
and building the character connections and development that we need to make their ultimate deaths, probably a lot of them in season 3, more impactful.
I know.
So yeah.
All right. Before we get started today, we would like to remind everyone that this is an adult podcast where we will have explicit conversations. Explicit language may be used and triggering events may be discussed, so please adjust accordingly. Housekeeping. If you are enjoying this podcast so far, then the best way for you to support the show is to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review or a rating. This greatly helps us on the podcast platform so we can grow our community and connect with more of you that enjoy fantasy books and shows. Next, we are continuing our new reader Throne of Glass deep dives. If you are looking for a fantasy book series to start, then so far we can't recommend the TOG series enough. You got to fill your time now that House of the Dragon is over. So
yes, Lorraine, I was just going to say the same thing. Although we're very sad House of the Dragon is over. And remember, guys, there's usually about 2 years between seasons. We're going to need something to do. We're going to need something to listen to. So why not start a new book series with us?
Exactly. Yay.
But we're just as funny in those episodes as we are in House of the Dragon. I promise.
Yes. Woo. And then we got a little bit, off our usual posting schedule.
Lorena's trying to take a bullet for me. It's totally my fault. So I just want to tell you guys, we're so sorry for the delay in the posting schedule. We love you guys and we really value consistency, and that's really important to us. Unfortunately, I have had an almost comical amount of things go wrong, basically all at the same time. My AC broke for like almost 2 weeks, and I live in Texas. And so for anyone who lives in a southern state, you know exactly how miserable that is. On top of that, I am moving. So I'm trying to get ready for a move. I still have 2 small children. And then a very close family member of mine had a routine surgery and had some complications and ended up in the hospital for a week. So all of that happened like at the same time. That obviously delayed our recording and editing schedule and everything. So for those of you that were maybe wondering where we were or were a little frustrated, we are so sorry. And we love you and thank you so much for sticking with us. And we are working hard to get back on track.
I blame Mercury.
Mercury's out of retrograde.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's been in the wrong way right now.
The moons are misaligned and
exactly. Yeah. Everything's all out of whack, but we'll get back on track.
We will. It was just so funny because I would call Rhaenyra and be like, I'm so sorry this is happening, you know, and then I'd kind of laugh and be like, what could possibly go wrong? Like, how could it get worse? And then the next day I would call her and I'd be like, what could possibly go worse? And then every day she was like, Addison, just don't even tell me. It's okay. It's okay.
I know we were supposed to record yesterday and you literally got your house at like 10:30. Well, it was like 10:30 my time. It's currently 10:47 today as we're currently recording for me now. But anyways, yesterday we had tried to record and Addison literally gets to her house and she's like, I don't have my house key.
Yeah. Yeah, because of being at the hospital and then the transition with my kids and my family members helping, I had given someone my house key. And so it was very late. I drove like 45 minutes home from the hospital and I got out of the car and I was like, oh my God, so mad. But we're here now and we're excited. So just want to give you a little heads up on how things are going and just let you know we may be posting a little erratically, but we are working hard to get back on track.
Yes. Also, if we get a little loopy, it's because it's past bedtime. Okay.
For Lorraine specifically. See, my schedule's all messed up because I've been in the hospital for a week with my family member. Right. So I'm like really energized and excited and awake. And so just buckle up, everybody. Buckle up.
I had half a cup of coffee, so I think that'll boost me through. I may need more, but we'll see. Anyways, so that is all for housekeeping. This is what you can expect from today's House of Dragon episode. First, we will start with the State of the Realm, where we recap key events. Next, we will hold a meeting with the Small Council to analyze key events and conversations. After that, we will continue with our trial in the Fantasy Court of Law to decide which team has enough evidence to support their claim to the Iron Throne. Last but not least, we will also share our favorite moments from the episode. And given that this is the last episode of this season as well, we'll just do a short, favorite moments / predictions going into the next season, just at the end as well, to wrap up the season. And without further ado, Addison, please update us with the State of the Realm for our episode summary.
Happily, but also sadly, because it's the last time for a long time.
You're not sad. You're going to be happy.
I mean, I will say these summaries do take me a really long time. As I was writing it, I was like, oh, thank God, this is the last one I have to write for a while. But I'm sure in a few weeks I'll be like, I want House of the Dragon to come back.
Oh, no. That's true.
All right. Here we go. We opened this episode surrounded by the extras from the set of the Pirates of the Caribbean. We've left Westeros.
I'm telling you, I feel like I can't speak very well now. I'm out of practice with
I know. Oh, shit. Okay. We've left Westeros with Tywin Lannister to meet with the Triarchy and to secure their help in destroying Team Black's blockade of the Gullet. After some artful negotiating, Tywin is able to secure their aid in exchange for the Stepstones. Daemon and Corlys are going to be pissed. They spent years fighting over those stupid rocks. But wait, not so fast. There's one last thing Tywin must do. He must impress the commander of the fleet, Lohar, who will not sail with a man who cannot best them. We then see a quick shot of Aemond, who has thrown a temper tantrum and has burned Sharp's point to the ground. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Aegon has a conversation with Larys, where he gives us some graphic descriptions of his physical state. I don't think I'll be eating sausage anytime soon. If you know, you know.
You have a whole kingdom of starving people and you're worried about your dick.
I mean, in fairness, I don't have one, but I can imagine that would be a thing. That would probably occupy a lot of my mental real estate.
If nothing else, it was very on brand for Aegon.
Yes, it was. Poor Aegon. Anyways, Larys tells Aegon they must soon depart from King's Landing or Aegon's life will be forfeit by the hand of his own brother. Larys promises him that one day he will return and the people will sing his praises. The people will sing his praises. Instead of Aegon the Magnanimous, it will be Aegon, the realm's delight.
I don't know why Pragus just reminded me of... Do you remember? There's like this viral, I think it was on Quora or something. Of like
what?
People asking, no, it's like when people are trying to ask like how they know if they're pregnant, but they always like misspell it or something. For like pregunte
or like, am I pregnante or pregnant? Yeah. I forgot about that. Someone did like a songify of that. The way people would spell it. Oh my God, we have to find that. That is so freaking funny.
Pregnant? Pregnante?
Pregnante. Oh my God.
Am I pregnant? Am I pregnant? Is there a possibility that I'm pregnant?
Could I be pregnant? Am I pregnant? 38 plus 2 weeks.
Thank you for reminding me of that. I needed that. We will put a link to it in the episode notes for you guys.
Obscure internet memes from like over the years.
Yep. You can get that and much, much more with this podcast. Oh my God. Okay.
You're welcome.
I told you Lorraine is going to get goofy, guys. All right. We see a quick shot of Rhaena wandering around the Vale, suffering from the harsh conditions. Get used to this. We've got 3 more scenes of that. While Jace overhears Ulf and Hugh. Ulf is treating his new position as Dragon Rider with a lack of respect, and Jace is not here for it. In a hilarious encounter, Jace demands that Ulf remove his feet from the table, and Ulf responds with, "Nana boo boo, you can't make me." That is until Hugh tells him that's fucking Jacaerys Velaryon, the heir to the Iron Throne. Ulf gives Jace a huge hug and compliments his uncharacteristically dark hair. Jace is not entertained and tells Ulf should he interfere with their victory, he will see him hanged.
That was such a missed opportunity for a strong joke on Ulf's part.
Yeah,
he commented on his hair. I was like, it was,
I know, he's like such a nice, strong boy.
Or like strong hair. So, yeah, exactly. And I was like, writers.
Oh my God. The look he gave when Ulf was like, we're cut from the same cloth, you and I. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. I can't wait.
I know, that was like such a cringy moment.
Mm-hmm. Freaking Ulf. Oh man. Ooh, okay. Back in Driftmark, Rhaenyra and Corlys discuss the new riders and the continued threat of Vhagar and Dreamfire. Corlys then tells Rhaenyra that he has renamed his newly refurbished ship from the Sea Snake to the Queen Who Never Was. And Addison throws herself on the floor and sobs. Oh, we miss you, Rhaenys. Things in Harrenhal are really heating up. Daemon oversees the preparations for war, and Sir Alfred Broom finally arrives. He asks to speak to Daemon privately and tells him that while Rhaenyra's intentions are good, what the realm really needs is a king. Daemon smiles at Alfred, leaving us all to wonder if he will take Sir Alfred up on his offer. Helene and Alicent have a brief conversation about why the small folk hate them. Gee, I wonder if it could have anything to do with their blatant disregard for their well-being. Anyways, a desperate Aemond comes in and demands that Helena fly with him immediately to fight Team Black. She refuses, and Alicent intervenes. On the march to Harrenhal, Gwaine threatens Cole for sleeping with his sister, and instead of being defensive, he delivers a depressing monologue about the futility of men and the absence of true morality in the world. In the face of dragons, we are all just dust under their feet. Record scratch! We cut to Tylan and Lohar in their mud wrestling? Okay. So freaking stupid. Anyways, Tylan bests Lohar and she informs him that she will contemplate sailing with him after they dine on the flesh of their enemies. Just kidding. Jace pouts about being a bastard and Baela basically tells him to get over it, while once again we see Rhaena running around the Vale looking for the wild dragon. We're back in Pirates Bay and Lord Tywin, Tyrod? What is it again? Entertains us all with a song. Lohar is so delighted she invites him to impregnate her wives. I have no idea what's going on here, so don't ask me. I really have no idea. Pregante. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, that hurts to laugh. Okay. House rules, bro. When at the queen's table, one must comport themselves as a knight. If that's the case, then someone better make Ulf a knight ASAP. Rhaenyra, Baela, Jace, and the new writers have a dinner where they discuss the threat of Aegar. But never fear, Ulf is here. He and Silverwang.
Silverwang. Oh my God.
He and Silverwing ain't afraid of anything except running out of those yummy little birds. Rhaenyra receives an urgent raven from Sir Simon Strong, and she and Adam jump on their dragons and head to Harrenhal. Daemon awakens to see Alice, and she invites him to the Godswood. Daemon follows, and Alice says a bunch of weird cryptic shit, and then Daemon touches the Godwoods tree and then sees a bunch of weird cryptic shit, including but not limited to the Temu version of the Night King and our girl, Daenerys Targaryen.
The Temu version.
It's true. It's true.
Oh, I saw all the memes about how he looked like he's like Botox, limited like face lift,
buccal
like,
fat removal.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm like,
that was so funny.
What? Like, you couldn't just CGI the same image from Game of Thrones? Oh my God. The way I laugh and almost spit out my drink. Oh my gosh. It's all part of the story, and now Daemon knows his part. Back in King's Landing, Aemond asks Helena again to join him in battle, but this time he asks nicely. Helena prophesizes his ultimate demise and tells him, no matter what he does, it will not change his fate. Rhaenyra arrives at Harrenhal and is greeted by her army. Or is it Daemon's army? Rhaenyra poses that same question to Daemon in Old Valyrian, I might add, and you guys know what that does to me. Shadow Daddy Daemon is back, and Addison rejoices. He tells Rhaenyra that she is the true queen, and he is meant to serve her until death or the end of their story. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm not crying, you're crying. That was so good. I love that part. Back in Driftmark again, Corlys offers his help to Alan, and Alan finally loses his shit. In an absolutely inspired speech, he tells Corlys that he has made it this far in life without his help or his sweetmeats. And so if it's all the same, he'll continue on as he was. We're back in the Vale again, but this time, Rhaena actually sees the dragon and takes off running. Meanwhile, Mysaria and Rhaenyra discuss the upcoming battles and the toll it will take on the small folk. Later that evening, Rhaenyra is summoned from bed only to find Alicent in the halls of Dragonstone. Alicent and Rhaenyra have a tension-filled conversation that ultimately ends with Alicent and Rhaenyra staging a coup and agreeing to let her son, Aegon, be killed. In the final scene, we get an epic montage of groups from both sides preparing for the inevitable Dance of the Dragons. Who will come out victorious and claim the Iron Throne once and for all? Only time will tell.
Many will battle, none will win.
That's kind of how it feels, right? I'm like, Ulf for king? Ulf 2024? I guess it'll probably be like 2026 if we're being honest.
Actually, you know what? Ulf gives like cockroach energy. Like, everyone else is gonna perish, but he will live because he's just gonna find a way to survive. Yeah. He's just gonna reappear magically somewhere down the line.
Ulf does feel comically unkillable.
Yeah, he does.
Like, he'll find a way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, I have a very pertinent question. Okay, what exactly is a sweetmeat?
Okay, you know what? In my notes for that, so I think I've told you guys before, I name each scene, and sometimes they're just like very basic, and then other times they're kind of spicy. Like, I named one of them, Aemond doesn't give a shit about the small folk scene. And then the scene with Alan and Corlys, I wrote, Alan and sweetmeats, ? What the fuck? And I think I put a note.
What is it?
I don't know. We'll have to Google it, because I put, ask Lorraine what sweetmeats are.
I don't know either. Is it like a salami?
I don't know.
Salamis
we'll Google
are
it for you
sweet,
guys.
Though.
We'll find
I
out
guess when
we
we'll
get
see.
there. Don't worry.
Well, anyways, thank you for the episode summaries. And now let's get started with our analysis.
Happily. Of course, we're going to talk about the tapestry and the title, but before, I just have some overarching thoughts about the episodes I just want to share before we begin. I know we talked a little bit before the housekeeping, but I have a little bit more developed thought that I'll share here. So the first is that I know that a lot of the feedback for this episode is really bad. People were very unhappy. They did not enjoy it. And I did a lot of thinking. Obviously, I watched it a few times in preparation for this episode. And here's what I'm going to say. I don't think that the episode is bad. It just doesn't make sense as a finale. And I think that's what people are conflating. So when you think about episode 9 and 10 from season 1 and how they progress the story and how they flow together, it's really well done, right? You've got Aegon being crowned and then Rhaenys coming out of the dragon pit. Then episode 10 is the follow-up and you have the death of Lucerys. It tells a cohesive story and it also progresses the overall season, and it's just really entertaining to watch, right? I think the issue here is one we discussed earlier, is that the framing of the season should have been there's not going to be a ton of action. It's a character building and a foundational season to prepare us for the next season. But also, I think about episode 7, which is the penultimate episode, the Red Sowing, and then I think about this episode. And the Red Sowing is a great episode. It was very entertaining. It was very exciting. But it doesn't really hit the way a standard Game of Thrones penultimate episode should. And then when you think about how 7 and 8 flow together, I kind of feel like they're really disjointed. There's not a lot of continuation from 7 to 8. You could totally put them standalone. Whereas episode 9 and 10, it was the Green Council and then the Black Council. And there's this really nice symmetry between the episodes, and they're totally interconnected. You can't separate them. Whereas you could watch these episodes 2 totally separate times and not be confused about what's happening. You know, it takes you out of the narrative. The pacing isn't right, and it just feels disjointed. So the only thing that I absolutely hated about this episode was the entire Lohar sequence. It just felt really out of place. It felt overacted. It was really bizarre, and we'll talk about it more when we get there. But that was the only thing that I was like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, what is happening right now? It was so strange. I don't know.
I think she's a more important character in the books. But again, I feel like they kind of introduce people a little too briefly and kind of at a weird time. 'Cause what was it, like a couple episodes ago at this point that Thailand had been sent away to go to Essos in the first place? And I think it would have made more sense to follow up with him in the subsequent episode instead of like 2 or 3 episodes later. Because I forgot about it. And then I was like, wait, why is he in Essos? Oh, okay. Yeah. They need to get the pirates on their side and they need help, breaking through the blockade, et cetera, et cetera. So I agree that it was like a little bit of a weird place to put it. But then again, I did think it was interesting because you kind of see Team Green get a naval fleet thanks to the pirates. And then that can now combat against Team Black with Corlys's fleet and everything. So that's how I was viewing it.
Yeah.
And I liked Lohar as a character. She provided some comedic relief and I guess a little bit of different energy.
Yeah.
But I do agree that it was kind of a weird place to put it timeline-wise within the season.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's a fair criticism. Basically, the summation of that is it's not a bad episode. It's a bad episode for a season finale of House of the Dragon is, I think, what it comes down to. So, but yeah. Now we'll move on to the tapestry progression. I watched it a couple times very closely because, of course, this is the last time it'll be updated and quite possibly they'll change the intro for next season. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I feel like there was a new part that I hadn't noticed before. If it's been there before and I just missed it, forgive me. But if it's what I think it is, then it should have been added before this episode. But it seemed new to me. So there are 2 dragons, one red and one gold or kind of tan, with dead bodies everywhere. And I can only assume that that is Meleys and Sunfire. Notably, in that section of the tapestry, Sunfire, or rather the dragon I'm assuming is Sunfire, has red dye around him as if to indicate blood. And then the red dragon, Meleys, has red dye and black dye around them, which kind of indicates blood and death to me and in compared to Sunfire. So that tracks. We'll have to talk about Sunfire. I don't think Sunfire is dead. We'll get there when we get there. But
oh, okay.
I don't. I feel very strongly they're not, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And then the second thing for the tapestry is, to me, there appears to be a greenish bluish dragon in a circle. And it sort of looks like a sun. And that bluish greenish dragon is in the center of the sun. And then there's a thread connecting it to a tan or golden dragon. I'm totally confused about that. I don't know who that is or what that is. So if you know what's up, let me know.
If I had to guess, I think that new dragon, the blue and green one that you're talking about, is
Daemon's.
Tessarian. Mm-hmm.
You're totally right.
Yes.
Dang. As you were saying it, I'm like, I bet it's Darren.
Oh yeah, it comes back to it. Because he's
We
in
do
play
see
now,
him.
like officially. And yeah,
Yep.
we see that brief scene of him flying out. So,
Totally.
or I think it's a she. Tessarian is a she, I believe.
Okay. And then at the end, you see a bunch of embroidered dragons, which I can only assume are all the new dragons we've added in play: Vermithor, Silverwing, Sea Smoke, etc. So yeah, those are all the tapestry updates. I know.
Nice.
I know. So next we go to the episode title. The title for this episode was The Queen Who Ever Was. I when I saw that, I was like, oh, my heart. This title is clearly in reference to Rhaenyra, our queen. It is also a play on the title given to Rhaenys, rest in peace, the queen who never was. And it's just a nice way to juxtapose these two strong female characters who both had claims to the Iron Throne. We remember way back in season 1, it was either her or Viserys. The Great Council picked Viserys and obviously set in motion the entire show. And we know Rhaenys was a really important character all the way up until her death. And of course, this is also a reference to Corlys's journey in dealing with Rhaenys' death. And this is evident when he changes the name of his ship to The Queen Who Never Was. So it's a play on that. I thought it was a nice episode title.
I know. Corlys dedicating his ship to Rhaenys.
Oh, God. I know. I didn't tear up, but I felt it. I felt it in the back of my eyes. I was like,
I know. Yeah, I didn't cry either, but I was like, oh, that's so sweet. I was like,
know.
That's so cute.
Poor Corlys.
Poor Rhaenys.
Oh, well, you know. Yeah.
I know it's a little too late. Can't do anything about her death now. But all right. Well, with that being said, let's get into the actual episode then. So we start off with Tywin Lannister. He is in Essos negotiating with the pirates.
Arr, shiver me timbers.
To get them to join their forces. Ultimately, one of the men asks for the stepstones so they can, quote, impose a simple tax and recoup the losses they incurred fighting the Valyrian hordes previously. Tywin argues against this, stating, extortion, you would drive up the price of basic goods. And the pirates are like, Basically, they're like, do you want our help or not? Tywin doesn't have a ton of negotiating power because obviously he needs to get the pirates, or Aemond is, I don't know what Aemond would do, but probably not anything great.
No. As that one pirate points out, he says, it seems like you need us more than we need you, which is
exactly
very accurate.
So eventually, Tywin does agree to their demands. They ask for a fleet of warships. Then they would break the blockade and obviously help keep the passageway open. But Tywin does state that the Prince Regent may very well have me hanged for this. And before he leaves, they tell him he needs to get Lohar as the commander of the ships. And of course, at first we're like, oh, Lohar. I definitely assumed Lohar was a man. I had no idea. Obviously, I haven't read the books. And so I was very surprised when Lohar was a woman. And she tells him, I will not sail with a man who cannot best me.
Yeah.
And we're
I feel like there's some confusion between the book and the show. Because I asked my husband, because he's read the book. And again, I could be totally wrong here. I've not read it. So if I'm wrong, guys, don't come for us. But I feel like in the books, Lohar is a female. And it's either they know she's a female, but they kind of just pretend that she's a male. Or she is actually hiding it. So there's some confusion for me about that. And then in the show, do they know she's a female or are they just pretending? I don't know. It's a little confusing.
My impression is that they know she's a female, but she has to act
male.
She kind of has to present with like kind of
masculine,
very commanding, more of like masculine commanding energy, because that's what the pirates respond to, I guess. This is what I'm gathering from what they talked about at the very end of the episode. It sounded like even her taking on wives was also part of that play into performing as more masculine or more commanding or more aggressive than she ordinarily would be. I don't know, but
it was a little bizarre and confusing, to be honest.
Yeah, I was surprised. if anything.
Mm-hmm. So I have two quick things I want to say about this scene. The first is I wonder if the triarchy is going to come up later as another problem. Obviously, at the end, we see Tylan and Lohar on the ship on the way to the gullet. So a lot of things can happen here in terms of do they break the blockade, etc. But I'm presuming a world in which they do and the triarchy obviously survives. Then there's this conversation about, well, you're going to control the stepstones and raise the price of goods. And I feel like the triarchy may become a problem again later, like post breaking the blockade. Is my
I think they would. Yeah, because
Mhm.
essentially what they're negotiating for themselves, if the Greens were to win, is control of the blockade, literally. So they can create like crazy inflation, charge as much as they want for passage through. They could easily turn against King's Landing again at some point. They could just be like, sorry, no,
Too
cut
bad.
off.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I could see it becoming a problem later on. But again, they don't really have a choice, right? Like the Greens don't really have a choice.
Yeah. And then one more just kind of fun fact about this scene. At the beginning, you see a monkey walking into the room. That monkey's name is Rosie. And I thought this was absolutely hilarious. The actor who plays Tylan Lannister was very scared of the monkey. He was very nervous about the monkey.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the cuts they took out, the monkey was going towards Tylan and he was getting nervous. And you could hear the trainer in the back going, no, Rosie, no. Which I thought was really funny.
Like she's going to go terrorize him.
Yeah. There was like a little interview clip with the actor who plays Tylan. And he was saying that the handler was like, oh no, Rosie's a great monkey. She's very trained. Just don't look her in the eyes or she might bite you. Something like that. Maybe he was joking. It was hard to tell, but you could tell he was kind of like, oh, okay.
That would make me a little bit nervous.
I know, right? But I thought that was pretty funny.
That is hilarious. I didn't know that. Well,
Yeah.
I love Rosie. Maybe a show might could come back. Like Jesus Dog.
Oh.
Multiple cameos.
Right.
So then after this, we cut to a very brief scene where Aemond is overlooking a burned city with Vhagar. We hear people screaming in the background, and we later learn that this is Sharp Point, which is home of House Massey, and Lord Massey is on Rhaenyra's council. So basically, Aemond got angry. He threw a tantrum. Sharp Point is kind of close to Dragonstone, so he decided he was just going to take out his frustration on a little town city place. So
yep.
Not
that
great.
is not baby girl energy. That is not what I'm looking for from Aemond, okay?
He's getting increasingly more unhinged. Like
he
was
is.
truly losing his shit in this episode.
The more desperate he gets, the more unhinged he gets.
Mm-hmm. In the next scene, we have Aegon and Orwyle. Aegon is asking for a little bit of rum, and Orwyle obliges him.
I was like, just give it to him.
I know at this point, he deserves it. And then Larys ends up walking in, and he asks to speak with Aegon. He announces they must leave the city because the Pretender has found 3 new riders for her dragons. Larys goes on to fill Aegon in about how Aemond flew to Dragonstone, only to turn around because he realized he wasn't going to be able to fight all those dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And that he also subsequently went to Sharp Point and burned the town up. Aegon is like, what the fuck, dude? That's crazy. But he's like, oh, so she really did it then, referring to Rhaenyra getting all these new riders. Then this is when Aegon spins out a little bit and he's like, what was the point of all this? Why am I here? What are we all doing here in the end? Larys tries to comfort him. He says, the gods are cruel, your grace, but I hope you can see the urgency. Aegon refuses to run and asks why they should in the first place. And Larys responds, because he's going to kill you. You were in danger before, and now he is thwarted and angry. Aegon tries to suggest they imprison Aemond, but...
Well, Larys responds with, even if we do that, what are you going to do when Rhaenyra shows up? Like, you won't have Vhagar anymore if you lock Aemond up. So what is your plan here? And that's totally fair. Team Green's only defense is basically Vhagar, which means they need Aemond. So Aegon's kind of screwed, honestly.
Yeah. Then this is when Larys comes around to sit next to him and reveals he had moved his money from Harrenhal to the Iron Bank in Braavos. He says we can live well and remain until what is coming has passed. Aegon says, you want to take me to Essos to live with the goat fuckers? And that's like, what?
I know.
Is
I
that
was
a
like,
thing?
huh?
Not a thing, but I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that
I
was
don't
weird.
know. It must be, I don't know, some kind of
Weird
joke against
xenophobia. I don't know.
folk people. Yeah, I don't know. But Laris is like, well, would you rather live or want to die? You know, again, what choice do
Decide.
you really have? Yeah. And this is when Aegon continues to spiral and he says, my dragon is dead. I am burnt and disgusting and alone, and I'm a cripple.
Yeah. He can't even pee without it running down his leg.
And he also brings up his now less than useful dick, which is probably very tragic for Aegon.
For Aegon specifically, yes.
Actually, maybe not though, considering,
Well,
you know, we built up some empathy for him, but when you consider his past, we're like, maybe it's a good thing that this has happened to you at this
karma,
point.
you know?
Yeah,
Karma.
consider it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's hard because I like season 2 Aegon so much that I want to forget how awful he was in season 1. But then every time I'm reminded of it, I'm like, oh, I forgot he's a bad person. Darn.
That's true. Really makes it kind of gray.
Yeah. So I feel like the most important thing from this scene is when Aegon says that Sunfire is dead. He says, my dragon is dead. And immediately I'm like, no way. I just don't believe it. I strongly feel that Sunfire is alive. If I don't see a body, then they ain't dead. I just don't think so, because we see Sunfire. We know Sunfire is obviously very hurt and injured after Rook's Rest. And then we never see Sunfire again. There are only 2 comments about Sunfire. The first is that one scene with Cole when he's talking to Alicent, and he says something like, Sunfire was long in the dying, basically implying that Sunfire was likely going to die, but was just a very slow process, just a lot of injuries. You know, it was just very like drawn out death, which to me also lends the possibility of it being healed. And there's no way Aegon would know that. I can only assume he's just making an assumption based off the events of Rook's Rest, and what people have told him is, oh, Sunfire was really fucked up, and so were you. Like, look at you, you know? I do not think Sunfire is dead. I would put money on it. I'll put facts, stacks of cash. Podcast bet. Podcast bet.
No.
Podcast bet.
I mean, I believe you. I want to believe. Yeah, well, I don't want to believe that Sunfire is dead, I guess. That would not be ideal. But I could also see why he would be, because he was in such bad condition. He probably couldn't really get food for himself. So if he didn't die from his injuries, maybe he died from starvation. I don't know. But
that's a fair point.
But in any case, I guess we will see.
Mm-hmm.
And the other important thing, or it's not super important, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. So Laris had said, we'll run away. We'll come back, and then we'll present ourselves as Aegon the Victorious, risen from the ashes, Aegon the Peacemaker, Aegon the Rebuilder, and then Aegon's like, Aegon the Realm's Delight. Which is funny because this is what people had called Rhaenyra, but he's like, oh, I could be the Realm's Delight now.
The Realm's Delight. And he said it with such hope and like a little smirk.
I know.
And he's like, the Realm's Delight.
Me. Yeah.
And I'm
like, yes, I like the sound of that.
I don't know why, but it was so funny to me.
I know, it really was. But that rounds out that scene. We cut to a very brief scene.
Wait, I want to tell you something funny I just thought of.
Oh, okay.
All I could think of when I was typing this and thinking about it was that they should make a Ben & Jerry's flavor, like Aegon the Realm's Delight.
Oh my God.
I feel like it would be so funny. Yeah.
What flavor would it be?
Ooh, what flavor would it be?
For some reason, I'm thinking about bananas just because of Sunfire, but I don't think bananas is a great flavor for ice cream.
Caramel, maybe like a golden caramel. Yeah.
Oh, like graham crackers and caramel and like
yeah. I was trying to think on like Sunfire. Little cheesecake bite. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh.
We should petition Ben & Jerry's for this. A House of the Dragon line of Ben & Jerry's ice cream.
The Realm's Delight.
The Realm's Delight. Oh my God, I love this idea. Let me just, hold on. I'm going to just type that on my to-do list and just email Ben & Jerry's about the Realm's Delight. House of the Dragon edition ice cream. Bro, I would buy the shit out of that for next season.
Oh
yes. My God. Because you could do
every episode.
Team green, team black. Oh my flavors. Oh my God. Ben & Jerry's, hire us. Iris will help you design it.
Marketing campaign. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God. I love this idea.
Dude, this is wonderful. Maybe we can concoct our own ice cream brand. Just
Okay.
kidding.
If you guys have any ideas, DM us. Let us know. Or help us think of fun names for them too.
We're pivoting. We're no longer
pivoting.
podcasting. We're making ice cream.
Oh, you know what you could do for Corliss's? You could do a sea salt.
Mhm.
Yeah, because salt and sea, you
Mhm.
know? Yeah.
Yes, I like
Oh my
that.
God, the ideas are flowing. For Daemon, you could do like something with a cherry because he has a red dragon, Caraxi. And I don't know, it kind of feels like a Daemon thing.
I was thinking for Team Black or just dragons in general. Maybe you make a cinnamon flavor for the bear. Like
Ooh, yeah. All right, we're going to keep working on this.
yeah, we're heavily invested in ice cream ideas. But anyways, to get back on track, we cut to a very quick scene. Rhaena is having herself a rendezvous running through the Vale. It's pretty obvious that she's looking for that dragon. She wants to pet that dragon. And
Yeah,
that's all we see.
I think this scene also highlights how harsh the conditions are in the Vale. We don't really visit it very often as a setting in this show thus far, but it's very obvious as the scenes progress. The temperatures are extreme. There's not a lot of food and there's not a lot of water. In this scene in particular, she sees water and practically throws herself into it.
Right.
Well, I think it's meant to show us how desperate Rhaena is for a dragon, that she is willing to quite literally risk her life against the elements.
Right.
Mhm.
But again, you do wonder what's happening with the children. They're just
Okay, I had that note later, but we can talk about it now too. I still have to ask myself, how has no one been like, where the fuck is Rhaena?
Where's
They haven't sent-
Rhaena? Yeah.
right? Like the caravan didn't turn around. They didn't send out search parties for her. They were just like, oh, Rhaena's gone. Oh, well. Because Rhaena she's not really a super important character in the sense of like who she is, but she is Daemon's daughter.
Right.
And also she was given the task of quite literally protecting future heirs to the throne. So
Right.
that's pretty important. So it's kind of odd that she just disappeared and they're like, oh, well, I guess she's dead. So we'll just keep it moving, you know?
Yeah, I guess they just kind of ignored that. Or
Yeah.
again, they're going to ignore it because they plan to get her there now equipped with the dragon. I don't know. So
It is
who
weird.
knows? Yeah. Random plot hole that we probably won't get information for, but
Ignore it for the sake of the plot.
exactly. So then to move on, I found this scene to be very hilarious. We have Ulf and Hugh and Jace. They're conversing in the Black's council room. Ulf is just chilling. Okay. Ulf does not, well, he's never been in the presence of royalty and he doesn't give a fuck. So he's chilling. He's
Quite
got his feet
literally boots on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jace immediately commands him to take his feet down. Hugh steps in to say, he's the Prince Ulf, Prince Jacaerys Velaryon, and Ulf immediately removes his feet. Because at first he's kind of like talking back. He's like,
who are you? You can't tell me shit.
Yeah, exactly. And we're like, Ulf, what's going on here? But I did think it's funny that as soon as he's reprimanded, he's like, I think he tries to present himself as like kind of badass. I'm the leader now, but in reality, someone's like, no, Ulf. And he's like, oh, sorry.
Yep.
You're right.
He tries to give can't nobody tell me nothing energy.
Yeah.
But no, not
No,
really. He can't back it up.
Yeah, exactly. Crumbles immediately. But Ulf stands up and he's like, Prince Jacaerys Velaryon right here. Who would have thought it? And Hugh the whole time is like, you're so fucking dumb. He lives here.
I know. That was my favorite part is he was like, yeah, he fucking lives here, bro. Oh my God. It was so
He's
funny.
the prince.
Maybe you've heard of him. I don't know.
I know. Jace then tries to demand an apology from him, but Ulf just hugs him instead. He's like, hey, brother, let me give you a hug, brother. And
Brother,
this is like,
ugh.
brother, ooh, what's that? Look at that hair.
Oh my God. I was crying when he was like, look at that hair, as dark as they say. And I was like,
I know, that was wild. And Ulf was like, hooray, we're both dragon riders. But Jace is like, it's a sacred inheritance of which you know nothing. Jace is very serious. He's not fucking around. And Hugh steps in. He's like, forgive him, my prince. He is not much use to the manners of the court. Of course, Jace continues going off on Ulf, relaying the destruction that they've all just learned Aemond committed at Sharp Point, and asks if he'll face the enemy. He says, if you hinder our efforts through sloth or unreadiness, I will see you hanged, your body fed to the dogs in the streets. Ulf is like, "Boop." He's like, sorry, bye-bye. Yeah. And then he curtsies to him and he says, I mean, no disrespect, my prince. Then him and Hugh walk out.
So I have two things to say about this scene. The first is you have to know that Jace just fucking hates this because Ulf is like, oh, you and I cut from the same cloth, both of us dragon riders. And Ulf is obviously a bastard. We know that Jace is a bastard, and Jace also knows that about himself and is obviously bothered by that. So you know that just had to kill him to hear Ulf say that. Here's the bumbling kind of mid-40s dad bod guy who's like, oh, we're both dragon riders. We're like the base of the same, brothers. And Jace is like, no, absolutely not. We're not even playing the same game. Get away from me. And so you know that just had to kill him for Ulf to say that specifically.
Yes, I agree.
And then the second thing, I just want to say I like this scene because it's nice to see some emotional range from Jace. I feel like this is the first time that we've actually seen him as a character and as an actor display a different emotion. A lot of times he hasn't really been featured as much in this season as I would have thought. And a lot of times he's just in the background, or in a lot of scenes he's just kind of calm and cool and collected, or generically likable. But in this scene, it's nice to see him actually display some strong emotion. And I feel like this may be the beginning of his character development of taking his rightful place as an heir. And this is kind of evident in the scene later with Bela. He's struggling with his position and how he feels and how to take control of that position and use the power that he possesses as heir. And so I think this is sort of the beginning of that, figuring out how to navigate the situation with the bastards that are dragon riders, and then reconciling his own parentage and how all that comes together. So I'm excited to see what they do with his character in the next season.
Yeah, it's been cool to see him take more command. Although I will say, I think a lot of his frustration, again, also comes from the fact that he wants to do that. He tries to take steps to take charge and take more of a leadership position, but seems to be consistently limited by Rhaenyra, his own mother. I mean, for good reason sometimes, because again, he is the heir, and if anything happens to him, not great.
Yeah.
I feel like what Rhaenyra and Jace are doing is kind of similar now that I think about it, because Rhaenyra herself too had felt very restricted, didn't really quite know how much commanding she could really do, I guess. And I think in the last couple episodes, we've seen her be like, fuck you to the council and just kind of go do whatever she thinks is right and what's necessary to some extent. And I feel like Jace is kind of doing that too. Not quite as wild as Rhaenyra's actions have been sometimes, but they've both expressed those frustrations where they want to go out and do things, but they feel restricted by the fact that they are literally the queen and the heir. So
yeah, restrictions in different ways, but similar in the sense of that they feel that pressure and that restriction. Yeah, absolutely.
Aside from that, though, I think Ulf's character is just hilarious because he's so unserious. He's just there for a good time.
Oh, I know.
It likely won't be for a long time, but he's enjoying it for now.
As my husband likes to say, I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Exactly.
And that's, oh man, that is Ulf,
very Ulf coded.
And bring me some more of those little birds.
The little birds. I know.
I can't wait to talk about that. He was so funny. See, he's the comedic relief I enjoyed in this episode. I did not really enjoy Lohar's thing, but anyway.
Yeah. After this, we cut to Driftmark. Rhaenyra walks with Corlys, and they're discussing the new dragon riders. She admits she knows nothing of the riders and their character, but points out that Corlys at least knows Adam. Corlys then also admits that he is a shipwright and is reported to be a man of integrity, but had little to do with that. To his regret, wink, wink, Corlys, we know you the daddy. Corlys goes on to state they must strike while Aemond plans his next move, and Rhaenyra admits she'd hoped intimidation alone would be enough, stating Vhagar is now overmatched. Corlys points out the fact that, Vhagar is not their only dragon. They also have Darren's dragon and then Helena also with Dreamfire.
Yeah, so I did not know this, and so I just want to call attention to it because I think it's important and understated. Dreamfire is a very large dragon. Dreamfire hatched when the Conqueror was king. I'd have to verify this. My assumption is that you have Vhagar, who's the biggest, then Vermithor, and I think Dreamfire might be the third largest dragon. If Dreamfire hatched when the Conqueror was king, that is an old girl. That is an old girl. So I'm not sure, but either way, that's important.
Yeah, I think from visuals, if I remember correctly, she is one of the bigger ones. So to have her as a fighting dragon would be pretty beneficial for them. But as we, of course, see, Helena has no interest in doing that. And I didn't want her either. Like, protect Helena.
No, she's baby girl. She's the most baby girl.
Don't do that to her. But Rhaenyra argues Helena has no taste for riding, though Dreamfire would be formidable. Corlys responds, Aemond thought himself invisible. He has now discovered he is not. He'll be angry, desperate. He will not stop at Burning Sharp Point, and he will not be denied. Rhaenyra says he has a point, and then asks about Sea Snake, the ship. Corlys says better than new, and that they'll rejoin the blockade on the morrow. And then this is when he says that he has dedicated the ship to Rhaenys. He says, she was a testament to my own glory. I've given her a new name, the queen who never was. And then Rhaenyra thanks him.
Rhaenys.
And Corlys, I know. And then Corlys says, what I do now, I do for her, your grace. You are ready. My ship sail at your command, but the Lannisters march and Old Town. You must crush this beast at its head and before too many days have flown. He also says there's, of course, another player that is yet to be revealed.
Yeah, at first I was confused when I watched that the first time. I'm like, who's he talking about? But then they immediately cut to Daemon. I think they're talking about Daemon because they don't know what Daemon's going to do. So
I think so,
I was
too.
Like, is there a character that we don't know about? Another dragon, maybe? But I think he's talking about Daemon.
I think so, too.
Okay, yeah. So the only thing I wanted to add about this scene is a little bit of character development for Corlys. I love Corlys. I have always loved him from the beginning. I love the actor that plays him. I love him. And I think it was nice to see him rename his ship to honor Rhaenys because so much of his character arc has been about his own glory. He was always sailing away. I mean, he quite literally named his ship after himself, the Sea Snake, right? And so it's only after that he's lost Rhaenys and Laenor and Rhaena that he realizes all along what was important, and that was Rhaenys. And obviously it's too late to change that now. So he does the only thing that he can think of, and that is to honor her memory and name something that was always meant to represent his own glory to represent her. And I thought that was a really nice tie-in. So I was like, oh, Rhaenys, Rhaenys. But I know.
Next, we get to a scene with Alfred. So if we recall a few episodes back, Rhaenyra had sent Alfred to go check on Daemon in the first place. And so this is him doing that. Sir Alfred arrives to check on Daemon to ascertain his movements and his attentions on behalf of Rhaenyra. Daemon says, you've arrived just in time. What do you think of it? And Alfred's like, it's very large. Daemon goes on to state he intends to send them into King's Landing while the Lannisters hesitate, referring to the army that he has now gathered. Alfred asks to speak privately, and we cut to them walking outside. I also think it's hilarious that this whole time Simon Strong is just in the background watching everything. Yep. He's being a girl's girl, and I love it so much.
He really is.
But Alfred reiterates his loyalty to King Viserys and how he pledged his banners to Rhaenyra as his heir. But there are battles to be fought, and at times like this, and he kind of trails off and starts to look around the courtyard, and he's like, did you hear something? I thought this was a funny line because Daemon's like, this place will have you barking at the moon. And of course, Daemon
would know.
He's been through the ringer.
Funny thing. So when Sir Alfred says that, if you listen closely, what he's actually hearing is the whispers of the godswood or whatever, the word traitor. And so it's the word traitor. Yeah. So it's like, traitor. But anyway, I thought it was really cool that you hear the word traitor. And so
Okay,
there's
yeah, I
that
didn't
little bit of
realize that
foreshadowing.
that's what they
Mhm.
said, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
very fitting for the scene.
But it's interesting because you could read it either way. Is Alfred being a traitor or is Daemon going to be a traitor? You know, you really
That's
don't
true.
know until Rhaenyra comes later to Harrenhal. So I think that's kind of cool.
So Alfred proves himself to be annoying, like Bartimaeus, and states, Rhaenyra has been turning aside from our judgment in taking a course I myself deem reckless. Daemon is kind of like playing the middle right now. So he says, Rhaenyra will chart her own course for good or ill. And Alfred's like, you are a leader of men. If you declare yourself, your lords will follow you. And this is when Daemon is like, are you turning into a turncloak, Alfred?
Hmm.
And he says, Rhaenyra's intentions are good, but what we need in this moment is a king. And Daemon really doesn't respond to this. He just smirks
Boo.
and looks away. Again, we see that Simon has been watching all of this and that he goes on to report them to Rhaenyra.
Sir Simon Strong is so baby girl. I
I love
him. Me too, Jinx. I saw the absolute best meme about him. And it was like, I like how all season they've talking about how Harrenhal ain't got no money. All the money is going to Sir Simon Strong's wardrobe. And it was a bunch of pictures
Yes.
of him. And you realize like he is wearing all these really nice, like soft embroidered silk and velvet robes that are like purple and green and
Mhm.
blue. And I'm like, Sir Simon Strong, he wants to be comfy. He wants to sit down. He wants to eat. He wants to be unbothered.
He wants to be stylish,
I love him. Love
but
him
he's still a girl's girl.
so much.
And I love
He
it.
is.
Yeah, I know.
He's my best friend. I want to go get a pedicure with Sir Simon Strong. Oh my gosh, you know what I want? Okay, here's what I want. I want to go get a pedicure with Sir Simon Strong. And then I want him to come to the house. We'll eat some Realm's Delight, Ben and Jerry's, and we'll watch
Yes.
House of the Dragon. That's my dream.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's my
We can
dream.
gossip on the couch with Simon.
You know Simon's
I
got all
love
the
it.
gossip. He's got all the tea.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm,
You know, especially if he's getting all those whispers from the godswood.
mm-hmm. Oh,
Who knows
totally.
what they're hearing from across the realm, you know?
Oh my God.
Whispers from the well. The realm. The realm. Yeah.
The realm. The realm.
Anyways, okay. Next, we have Jasper giving Aemond the DL on how Rhaenyra got new riders. Aemond declares it's deception and subterfuge, then orders let no vessel come or go from our harbor without our inspection. Jasper argues against this, and he says this will interfere with the fishing boats, which obviously they need to feed the people. That is their main source of food at the moment. And Aemond really doesn't care that much. He says they will need no sustenance if they are slaughtered by the enemy. We must all make our sacrifices. And you definitely see Jasper kind of be like, whoa, buddy,
Yeah. I mean, I
That-
don't give a fuck about the small folk.
aggressive. He
Mhm.
really doesn't.
He was like, oh,
Which
well.
makes sense because, well, I mean, not makes sense, but it makes sense like why the small folk really do not like him. As soon as he took over, everybody's like, who is this Prince Regent? And then with how things have progressed, everybody's really like, oh, Aemon's gotta go.
Yeah.
Hottogo. Aemond, you have got to go. Yeah,
I like that we sing every episode now. This is fun. I'm here for it.
I like it. Yeah.
Me too.
I can't sing to a dragon, so I'll just sing to you instead.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Baba. I love that.
The kitty.
La kitty Thor.
So
Lauren and I were talking about that. So obviously, if you guys remember from the Red Sewing, when Rhaenyra calls Vermithor and she's speaking in Old Valyrian, and that audio has gone viral, and a lot of people have done that, like Kitty Vermithor with their cats, and it's really funny. And so I've had it stuck in my head. Like I'll just randomly be like, La Kitty Vermithor, Doheres. And everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And yeah, that's really fun for me. But I don't care because it's fun to
Amazing.
say. It's fun to say.
I know.
Yeah, this is
You
like
really should.
totally off topic. The way that Rhaenyra or Emma Darcy delivers all of her old Valyrian lines are so good. They're so crisp and they're so,
Yeah.
I don't know, anytime that she specifically is really good at it. And I just, not she, excuse me. Well, I guess Rhaenyra.
They. Well, Rhaenyra, she,
Yeah.
Emma Darcy, they.
Emma Darcy as Rhaenyra is so good at delivering those lines. They do a really good job.
Yeah. I saw people speaking about how it really just like rolls off the tongue and it's like very smooth when Rhaenyra specifically is talking, in Illyrian. So
absolutely.
Anyways, next we cut to it turns very aggressive. It starts off with Alicent and Helena. Poor sweet Helena. She asks why everyone hates them. She says, I was happier before I was queen. And then this is when Alicent presents the idea that they make their escape. And Helena's like, okay, but, where are we going to go? And this is when Aemond comes bursting in looking for Helena. He announces that he needs Helena to fly Dreamfire into battle against Rhaenyra. Alicent immediately protests, and Helena also says, I do not wish to fight. I'm not going to burn anybody. I'm not going to fight anybody. And Aemond really is not listening to her because, again, he's just
he's desperate.
Yeah,
he's a little
desperate.
Manic.
Exactly.
He's scared. He's really grasping for any advantage that he can press right now.
Yes. And he starts like manhandling Helena, trying to drag her out with them. And he says, they have defiled our birthright, made commoners into dragon lords. Alicent steps in and yells at Aemond and reminds him Helena is the queen. And then Aemond claps back at her. He says, as you once were, and you see now what is the consequence of your weakness. We are in peril today more than yesterday. Alicent has an interesting line, which I think is pretty spot on. She says, was it peril that moved you to burn the town of Sharp Point? Peril or basest fury at your own humiliation? You wish to rule the Seven Kingdoms, but you rain ruin and death upon its small folk when you've been insulted because it makes you feel strong. And now you seek to corrupt your sister of all our line, the gentlest, most deserving of your protection.
Yeah, Alicent ain't here for it. She ain't about that life.
But Aemond, his very next line after this is, who will protect her if she cannot protect herself? This whole sequence was kind of interesting to me because you see a really large deviation in philosophy between them. I mean, obviously, I don't agree with Aemond's strategy, but he believes the only way to be protected is to learn to do it yourself. And I think that's a reflection of everything that happened to him growing up. Right?
Absolutely.
So I think we're seeing both the festering of frustration that their power is being threatened, but also the realization that it's not just the throne, it's literally their lives, right? Are you just going to stand there and like let them kill you off, or are you going to defend yourself? So I think that's where Aemond's coming from. And then also, I did think it was interesting. So in the last episode, you had made a callback and we had that conversation about Alicent and how she's pretty religious, and there wasn't really too much that was really touched on throughout the season, but we know that she is, right? She goes to the sept a lot, etc.
Right.
But I think the scene with her, Aemond and Helena, when he tries to force her into writing Dreamfire, is that example of why Alicent so fiercely defends Helena. She will protect her at all costs and will not subject her to the awful aspects of war that she now finds to basically just be morally wrong. So again, I think her realization of this is obviously kind of too late, as Rhaenyra points out later. But regardless, she's been taking steps to try and like right those wrongs like, as we've progressed in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's especially evident in the line where she says she's the most innocent and like pure and deserving of our protection. And I think that has some double meaning. Like, obviously, that is true of Helena as a person. She is a sweet baby angel, right? But I think it's symbolic of representation of the idea that everyone in this castle, nothing is clean here. Everything is corrupt. As an overarching theme, I think Alicent feels we need to try to protect what is innocent and pure and has not been dirty and sullied by sins.
I think that's why she feels especially protective of Helena. Definitely favors Helena compared to her other children. But after this, Alicent speaks to Orwyle and she asks for assistance in passage and his discretion, which, of course, this turns out to be her trip to Dragonstone later.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be her and Helena escaping.
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
I was actually confused because I was doing my notes. I'm like, I thought they were going to escape. And then I was like, oh, she meant to Dragonstone. That's what she meant. Took me a minute to connect the dots there.
Yeah. I was surprised when that happened.
Oh, me too. That came out of left
I
field
did
for
not-
me. I was like,
yes,
huh?
I did not see it coming at all. So.
You know why? Because it's not canon. Definitely did not happen in the books. Not even a little bit. And again,
I know.
sorry guys, I haven't read the books, but when things happen, my husband and I have spoiler-free conversations where I'm like, ain't no way that was in the book. And he's like, yeah, you're right. It wasn't in the book. And you can tell. It shows. And I have thoughts about this when we get there. Unhappy thoughts.
You're very observant. I was just like, oh. I did find it kind of random, but I thought it was just meant to parallel when Rhaenyra had tried to do that. Granted, this was earlier before things got really bad. And now Alicent, I don't know. Alicent just has a habit of showing up like way too late. And we're like, girl,
Like,
you
way
needed to
too
make this
late.
connection like years ago. But anyways, we next cut to Cole and Gwaine. They're in the forest with the army. Gwaine confronts him, puts his sword at Kristen Cole's throat, and he asks about his relationship with Alicent. And I thought it was funny that in the background you see all the men are staring at them, like they're not trying to mind their business whatsoever.
And they're like,
there's some tea going on. I gotta listen to this.
Oh yes.
So Kristen ultimately defends the fact that he's had a relationship with Alicent. He doesn't deny it. He doesn't really make any excuses for it. But he makes a fair point because Gwaine's like, I could send you to the wall. And Kristen Cole says, you could, but then you'd stay in the Hightower name for a generation. And obviously Alicent's reputation. And then he goes on to say, she saved my life twice. Once from the headman's axe and once from myself. Since then, she has been the beacon I follow. This really seems to throw Gwaine off.
Yeah.
I feel like he's kind of like, oh, that was actually quite sentimental. And he drops his sword. But he still demands that Cole needs to find a way to resist temptation, as the other Kingsguard do. And Cole responds, do they? Perhaps they do, or perhaps all men are corrupt, and true honor is a mist that melts in the morning. And then this is when Cole continues on to reveal his existential crisis about how anything they do as men is pointless with dragons involved. He says, we march now toward our annihilation. To die will be a kind of relief, don't you think?
You know, the monologue that he gives really displays his mental state. And so I try not to overquote because you guys all watched the episode, but I feel like it's important for his character. So I want to plug it in here. And he says, I have no philosophy to protect the righteous and dispense justice on the rest. You saw what I saw. The dragons dance and the men are like dust under their feet. We march now towards our annihilation. And this is just really, really beautiful writing. It was very well done. I still don't like Kristen Cole, but Fabian Frankel did an excellent job in this scene. It's incredibly acted. I find this part of his story arc probably one of the most compelling coming out of this season, which is interesting because in the very beginning, I couldn't stand him. Like every scene, I'm like, ugh. But I think what makes this so interesting is because in the beginning, he was absolutely critical and orchestrating pretty much all the bad stuff that happens in the war. And I would even go so far as to say he was pro-dragon, like he was pro-war, let's use the dragons. But after Rook's Rest and he sees the devastation that he has helped orchestrate, he begins to question everything. And I think it really delves into this idea of futility in the face of dragons, specifically dragons in battle, and just overall their powerlessness against the realities of war. I find that very compelling for his character because I would say of all the characters in the show so far, he probably has had the most development and the most shift in his kind of existential mindset. So I don't know. I think especially because like the other notable character who's like, no, dragons are dangerous. Dragons are dangerous is Rhaenyra. But while that's true and interesting, it's a lot different for Cole because he was very pro-dragon. But then after seeing it, he changes his mind. And so I think that shift is really important to highlight how dangerous it is because Rhaenyra's always been anti-using dragons. So it's not as compelling in that way. So I thought this was a beautiful, beautiful scene. And then, of course, I'm going to transition us. I was fucking furious. We go from this beautifully tragic scene to mud wrestling. Fucking mud wrestling. Who thought that was a good idea? Who was sitting in the editing room on their computer, just doing a little final pass, watching it and like, you know what? Let's have this really impactful dark moment and then mud wrestling. Oh my God. I was very angry.
It was a little jarring.
It was a horrible directorial choice or editing choice, producing choice, whatever. It was a bad fucking choice. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Feelings about this.
I was very angry because I hate that. I like when there's really impactful moments and you can let them sit. And I know obviously you have to transition, but you went to fucking mud wrestling.
That's true.
Ew. Tacky as hell. Boo.
I did have one final thing about.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, I just wanted to complain about that.
That's fine. Complain away. But I was wondering how that is going to affect his leadership in the battles that I'm sure are to come in season 3.
Oh.
Just because he has accepted the idea that men can't really do anything against dragons, and yet he also still willingly goes into battle anyway. It feels like he's just kind of accepted that he's going to die.
Oh yeah, he has.
But then by that point, that's kind of interesting that he still is choosing to lead this army. Then, I'm almost like, is there going to be a twist where maybe he will direct the army out of the way and try to save lives or something, because he knows that everybody's just going to die and get burned by the dragons and he wants to protect you. I don't know. That would be an interesting arc for Cole if he did do something like that. Perhaps it would be the redemption that he needed after being an asshole for all of season 1 and much of season 2.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
That was just my final thought about that. But anyways, now we cut to Addison's favorite Essos mud wrestling scene. So obviously Thailand and Lohar are fighting in the mud pit. Lohar looks like she's victorious, but Thailand punches her out of nowhere. And everyone goes quiet at this, which I did think was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
But this does happen to impress Lohar. She says, "You've impressed me, Lord Daemon. King's Landing has sent a most doughty ambassador." Thailand looks like very confused through most of this. He's kind of like, okay, are we good now? Is this deal done? Or is there anything else that I need to do? And she says that she will consider the offer after dinner. And then she jokes with them and she's like, "Have you ever eaten the flesh of your enemies?" And at that point, I was like, okay, yeah, she's for sure just trying to fuck with him. But Thailand is still like, I don't know what's going on. He says, "I am not, and I would not." Is this real?
I know. He's like,
Just a lot of confusion. And that is the end of that scene. Did you have any other thoughts about this scene?
Gross, stupid, dumb. What the fuck? Doesn't fit the show at all. I cannot say enough bad things about it. I hate it.
I was gonna say maybe this is like a little bit of the essence of the pirates. I don't really know that much about Essos or the pirates. I don't know what's appropriate based off the books and what's not. So maybe this is just like a little bit of inserting of pirate culture and stuff.
I think they just took full creative control of that. And we're like, it'd be fun if we had them wrestle in mud. Like, that could be so fun. And no, it was bad. They're dumb. I'm sorry. I always say that the cast is listening to the podcast. You guys, not a good choice. No offense to the actors. It's not really their fault. So it's really the directing team. I did not enjoy it.
Well, there you have it. No more mud
wrestling.
Oh,
we could do Lohar's flavor and do like Mississippi mud.
Ooh.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm still thinking about ice cream flavors.
Mud pies.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, that'd be fun. I like that. So then after that scene, we have Bela and Jace. And I thought this was so funny because Jace is just sitting there like full on
pouting. Absolutely. Like the purse lip.
Yes. Yeah, he's exactly. Like, the purse lip and everything. And then she's like, it doesn't befit a prince to pout.
Oh my God, it's so great.
And Jace launches into a monologue about how it's offensive for the other bastards to ride dragons, stating, if any common lout can ride a dragon, then Bela interrupts to say that does not make me common or you. And Jace is very upset by the fact that he's a bastard. It's really come to the forefront of his brain. This has been developing and brewing over the past couple episodes, but
Oh, yeah.
he says, "You know what I am, but oh, Bela. I really love Bela too, honestly." And she says, "I don't care. You are the crown prince, the son of the rightful queen, and here you are sulking because you believe that if not for the dragon or the trappings of your station, that you are nothing. Do you believe that you are the first noble heir who was not sired by his noble father? Such is the way of the world, Jace, and in resenting it, you only diminish yourself." Jace continues to complain, but Bela demands he prove it to himself and take his place by Rhaenyra's side.
Yeah, my main takeaway from the scene was just, I like when Bela asks him, "Do you believe you are the first noble heir that was not sired by his noble father?" And I'm like, dude, that's what I'm saying. You know that there have been some oopsies along the way. And
Oh, there has to be.
it has to be. And I like Bela's point is like, it doesn't really matter. And I feel like that's echoed in season 1 where Corlys is like, history does not remember blood, it remembers names. And I didn't understand what.
Do you think he said that? Because was that like his ode to the fact that he had bastards this whole time?
Oh, I don't know. Whoa. I have to think about that. I have to sit with that for a minute. Damn.
I feel like it might be.
Maybe. Holy shit. Very possible. Okay. I lost my train of thought.
That really, that takes a turn for like how you think about
what you
was
now
going
that
on.
knowing what you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, my point being is that, I mean, come on. You know, I get Jace's point. I get why this is a struggle for him, but he's just got to get over it. He's got
really
to find a way to get over with it. Yeah, he can't let that stop him from embracing his title and his destiny. Not to sound dramatic, but you know.
I had a little note where honestly the scene alone demonstrates that he is his mother's son for sure, with all their silent brooding and complaining.
Yes. Oh my God. Well, what a cute pout though. That's so baby girl. Yeah.
It really was.
He had it down too, like the little lip. I wonder how long he had to practice
like
that
the
in the
lip
mirror
flip and everything. I know.
Yeah.
Okay. So then after this, we have another brief scene. Rhaena is still rendezvousing, freezing, struggling in the Vale. Not much progress is made. And then we cut back to Tylan in Essos. He's having dinner with everybody. They appear to have made him start singing a song. And Lohar compliments him and states he's proven himself beyond one would think by looking at him.
Backhanded insult.
I think it's funny.
Yeah.
I know. And she's just like, "You look like a weak man," but
basically, yeah.
But she does ultimately agree to sail with them. "I will be pleased to sail at your side, and my captain's with me." She stands up and toasts him, stating, "Let the sea snake rule the day we meet again." They sit down, and Tylan begins to excuse himself, but Lohar says, "Before you go, you are a handsome man, and you have proven your worth and virility. I wish to have children by you." And him and me both. I was like,
what?
Is she making a move on him? But then she takes a little left turn there and she's like, "I want you to fuck my wives."
I like that his response is,
"What's that?
How many wives do you have?" It's funny to talk about and like poke fun of, but when you're actually watching the episode, this was so tacky and stupid and weird. And I'm like, it took me out of the narrative. It felt like this scene was like from a completely different show. You get Cole's depressing speech about how all men are morally corrupt and we're all marching to our deaths and we're just ashes in the wind. Then it cuts to mud wrestling. And then Lohar's like, "I think you should fuck my wives." And you're like, what? How did we go from the morality of society to "you should fuck my wives"?
That's true.
So bad. This scene is so stupid. It's not a comment on the actors. I thought the actors did a fine job. It's totally just the juxtaposition of these scenes, and it just doesn't fit for me. So again, I don't want to trash talk the actors because I thought they did do a good job. And it is funny in a way, but it's just like,
it's
too
bizarre because this is supposed to be a very serious situation. I mean, they're going into a war, they're signing up to battle with them, but the pirates, they don't really seem that concerned about it, honestly.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
But anyways, in the next scene, we have Rhaenyra and the new dragon riders, along with Bela and Jace. They're all seated together eating dinner. Ulf, again, is just having himself a time. He's asking for more wine and more little birds, which I guess if you consider the fact that all they've had to eat for quite a while was fish, I'm sure he's very ecstatic to have something else to eat. So he's taking full advantage.
Oh, yeah.
Rhaenyra makes a toast to them, stating, despite not being of no birth, they have done something never dreamed of before now. She says, I have entrusted you with a power only few have known, and I charge you to take it up with fealty and respect. Serve me well, and I will make you knights of the realm. Ulf is like, hell yeah. Adam says, we will not fail you, my queen. And Hugh says, what must we do? They all have like such very like different.
I know. It really showcases their personality. Yeah, exactly.
Rhaenyra reveals they must strike while they have the advantage, as Corlys had suggested, and end the war. She says, learn your beasts and their commands. You will fly in 2 days' time. The strongholds of the usurper, Old Town and Lannisport, and their armies all must be subdued. Alone without allies, he will have no choice but to surrender, referring to Aemond. Which I was like, 2 days?
Dude, like, that is not even enough to learn, like, Dohaeris command. Like, that is not enough to learn any old Valyrian.
You're really going to be able to get enough control over your dragon, too, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
well, not to mention, there has to be some, like, physical aspect to that of being able to stay in your seat on your dragon and stuff. I don't know. I guess the timeline is maybe compressed for the sake of the show, but I was like, they're going to be ready to...
That's a quick
not just fly a dragon, but go into battle with a dragon.
Right. Also, they have like no battle experience. Not only have they never been on a dragon or commanded a dragon, but I mean, maybe Adam a little bit. I don't think so though. But like none of them have like even fought in battle in general.
What?
This seems like a pretty crazy idea, but yeah. Baela also interjects. She says, you wish for us to kill innocents. Jay steps in and supports Rhaenyra. He says it is hard, but cannot be helped. And Rhaenyra is basically like, we just have to crush their will. Otherwise, this war is going to go on forever and just gotta nip it at the butt. So she is definitely not messing around, but Adam goes on to ask about Vhagar, but Rhaenyra reassures them that she can't take all of them with their dragons at once, which is fair, but somebody's going to die for sure. Maybe many of them before that happens.
I mean, again, we don't know, so we're just guessing here. I think everybody dies. Pretty much everybody.
I think, yeah.
Like maybe Aegon, Viserys, like the tiny little ones, maybe they survive.
Yeah.
I don't have hope for really any of our main characters.
Yeah, I agree.
If they've got a lot of screen time, they ain't gonna make it.
Anyways, so to wrap up the scene, Ulf, still being very overconfident, steps in to say, Silver Wing's a goer. We're afraid of nothing, even if you are. And he like tries to make a jab at everybody else, which I was like, Ulf, are you kidding me? You're going to be the first one to run away. If anything
the first
bad
one to
happens,
die.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, either the first one to die or the first one to flee.
Well, just like when they were trying to bond Vermithor, Ulf took off. He was like, peace, I'm out of
That's
here.
That's what I'm saying. So again, it's just funny coming from Ulf. I'm going to check yourself.
Yes.
And so I think it's funny that Adam calls him out too. He says there'll be time enough to see which one of us is a coward.
Like, don't worry. So, fun thing about this scene is the actor who plays Ulf, I don't even think I looked up his name, but in a little interview with him. So, as you guys are probably aware, when you're filming something, you take dozens and dozens of takes from different angles, focusing on different people, not to mention changes in, tone, cadence, etc. And so a lot of actors, when they have to do scenes where they eat, they're very, very selective about what they're eating because you may have to do 30 takes. You get full really fast. So some of the other actors, I think it was like the actor who plays Baela, she was saying how she was eating like half a raspberry every single take because she just, she knew she was going to have to eat a lot. And Ulf's character was like, I'm going to eat the little birds. And he ate, I think it was almost 30 quail during those scenes. Isn't that crazy?
Like quail eggs?
No, quail. Like that's what the little birds are. You know you can eat quail, right? Quail is delicious.
I don't think I've ever had quail before.
Oh, it's really good.
I know the eggs are like a thing and people eat
Yeah,
quail eggs
but like
pretty
actual
frequently.
quail. I've had buttermilk fried quail. I've had like
wow.
quail brochette. Oh yeah, quail is delicious. I like quail. It's good.
I've never tried that before. That's interesting. That's
Okay.
a lot of bird to consume though.
It's a lot.
Once a day. Yeah.
I
It's a lot of
know.
protein.
That's in the interview. He's like, yep, got to get my protein so I can be a nice, strong rider. I'm like, okay, good luck with that. So funny.
He really is. But at the end of the scene, one of the maesters interrupts with a message from Daemon. Rhaenyra speaks with them separately, and it turns out to be a note from Simon Strong stating Daemon has raised the army, but he fears treachery.
Mm-hmm.
She says, I will not allow it, and then calls for Adam to go with her. And this is clearly very shocking and upsetting to Jace. And that ends the scene.
I thought it was weird that she has Adam go.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was kind of strange, but
my idea was that she can't take Jace because if it does turn out to be like a coup against her, then she doesn't want Jace to potentially die. Or she wouldn't want both of them to die. That was my only reasoning that I could think of for why she wouldn't take him. But why not just tell him that? I feel like he's sitting there brooding all the time because she goes off and like makes these decisions, doesn't tell him. And so then he gets upset because he doesn't know what's going on. I don't know.
Yeah. That's fair. You guys, I feel like you have to remember, for us, deep inside, we're always like, Daemon's going to be Team Rhaenyra. You really think he's going to switch? But you have to remember, from Rhaenyra's perspective, they really don't know. That is a very strong possibility. And so she really is going there prepared to throw down with Daemon. Which
and also the way they left, they had a huge fight.
Oh,
and then Daemon leaves. And that was their last conversation with each other. And then Daemon's off, having ghost tours and Harrenhal for like several weeks. So, and then after that scene, we are back at Harrenhal. Daemon wakes up to find Alice sitting next to him. She tells him that she's going to go to the Godswood, and Daemon ends up following her outside. He briefly sees a green antlered mystical creature thing behind the trees, which are in the books. I think they're
I didn't
important.
See that.
Yeah, well, I don't remember if it's how important they are, but they are in the books. They're like mystical, another mystical being that exists. It was very brief. He just basically darts out and then he like disappears behind a tree.
Okay, I'll have to pay attention to that.
Yes. So Alice says there are omens here for those who seek them. You do not scoff. And Daemon, at this point, has come to accept that he is just in a magical place. And he says, I'm no longer inclined to. Alice then asks if he wants to hear what his omens are, but Daemon doesn't respond to this. She says, all your life you sought to command your own fate, but today you are ready. This is when Daemon steps forward and presses his hand to the Godswood tree. And he gets a flash of several images. We see the Night King and the Night Walkers. We see Daenerys rising, the dragon eggs, the raven, and Rhaenyra ultimately sitting on the Iron Throne. Helena also appears in this vision, and she says, it is all a story, and you are but one part in it. You know your part. And then the vision ends with her finally saying, you know what you must do. I loved everything about this scene. I thought it was so cool. And it was like the final arc for Daemon and his time in Harrenhal to show him that the future depends on Rhaenyra's line continuing and that there are much greater things at stake because winter is coming.
Winter is coming. Yeah, no. As much as I complained about the repetitiveness of Daemon scenes at Harrenhal.
Same.
I could have done with a little less, but I do feel like they brought it together really nicely. I felt like this capped off that story arc really well. It's nice to have a real tie-in to Game of Thrones and really show the connection between the events of this story and how it ultimately impacts everything that occurs down the road. And so, it was a really cool sequence. My main note was you got the Temu version of the Night King. But that
Oh my
was
God, I know.
basically- But that was really it. It was really cool. I loved just getting to see Danny again,
Yes.
even
yeah.
for just a second. I was like, I really am thinking about starting to rewatch, not rewatch House of the Dragon, rewatch
Watch Game of
Thrones.
Thrones.
I
Mhm.
just don't have time.
I feel like I have to.
but I
yeah,
kind of want to. I know.
I know I want to at some point, but yeah, when we get caught up, everybody, we'll
Yeah,
start
yeah.
a rewatch here. But yeah, as we just oohed and awed and gushed or whatever, I did think it was very beautiful because Rhaenyra has been fighting this battle and like dealing with the burden of this prophecy alone. Well, she did share it to Jace eventually, but for the
Right.
most part, she's carried that burden like single-handedly. And I don't think it has as much weight for Jace. But now Daemon finally understands what Viserys was doing, and he gets this opportunity to finally feel like he's closer to both him and Rhaenyra because he understands why Viserys chose Rhaenyra in the first place.
Yes.
And I feel like that was such a critical thing for him to understand. And so,
I
yeah,
agree.
it just comes full circle with the ending of season 1 when he first bends down and gives Rhaenyra the crown. And now to the ending of season 2 where he again kneels before Rhaenyra and
Oh, that's such a nice
honors her as the
parallel.
queen. Yeah.
Oh, that good call out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was wondering though, like, why did we already cover this? What did Viserys say about like why he never told Daemon about the prophecy?
I think the idea is that you're only meant to tell the heir.
Oh, okay.
And so, since the future of his heirs was so unclear, obviously he was still actively having children and then he could have remarried and stuff. It wasn't until he named Rhaenyra heir that he told her of the Conqueror's dream. And I think the idea is too that Daemon probably wouldn't have been in a place to actually accept it. He's vaguely insulting to Viserys about how his visions and his omens and his portents, and Daemon thought that was all rubbish. And so
Yeah.
Daemon probably wouldn't have even really been accepting of it, I think.
So directly after the scene, we end off with Helena and her final words in Daemon's vision, and we cut to Helena outside on the balcony in King's Landing, and Aemond comes to talk to her, and she really looks like she's been zoned out in her vision.
Yeah.
He tries to appeal to her, stating they're both dragon riders, and then asks her to come with him to Harrenhal to fight Daemon. Helena says, and if I refuse, will you burn me as you did Aegon? Aemond tries to tell her that's a lie, but she says, I saw it, you burned him, and you let him fall. Then she says, Aegon will be king again. He's yet to see victory. He sits on a wooden throne, and you'll be dead. You were swallowed up in the god's eye, and you were never seen again. This really
lot to
rattles
unpack there.
Aemond. I know.
Helena alert.
Helena prophecy alert. I
For
know.
real.
But I was wondering who actually caused this vision. Was Helena just a part of it? Did she enter into it separately? Was she the one that actually caused the vision? I'm wondering to what extent she was connected with it. And I tried to kind of do a little bit of research without spoiling anything for myself, but it seems to be pretty ambiguous. And I think it's meant to be that way.
It
I
is,
think,
absolutely. Yeah.
because we don't know to what extent Helena has these visions. But if nothing else, we know that her capabilities as a dreamer are, I think, much stronger than anyone previously thought.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got two characters that sort of have this mystique about them. You've got Alice and you've got Helena. And I think we're all pretty much in agreement that Alice gives a little bit of witchy vibes. Like there's some physical intervention on Alice's part. But I think Helena, it is quote unquote a gift, right? That she can see the future. And I don't think she has any control over it. I think it just happens to her. Yeah, I think that's more like involuntary for her. But I did think that this particular vision was interesting for a couple of reasons. The first is, can I even call it foreshadowing? She just flat out tells us that Aemond's going to die. And she says, you were swallowed up in the god's eye and you were never seen again. So I'm like, what is that? So I did some Googling, and God's Eye is a lake in South Westeros, and it is bordered by Harrenhal. So immediately I'm like, here we go. There's going to be a battle outside Harrenhal, and Aemond and Vhagar are going down. They're going to, quote unquote, get swallowed up in the lake.
Yep.
Then I was thinking about it. if you connect that to the vision sequence that Daemon has, remember, he steps in a puddle and then he falls into the water and looks like
that's right.
he's
Yeah.
drowning. And I have always thought there was going to be a really epic battle between Vhagar and Caraxes and Aemond and Daemon because their characters have a lot of parallels. I'm
Yes.
thinking it's going to be a big battle between the two of them and they're both going to die. Like they'll both be victorious, but also losers. You know what I mean? Daemon will kill Aemond and Vhagar, but he'll lose his life in the process. I'm not sure, but that is I would put a reasonable quantity of money on that bet.
Oh, that's a really good thought.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't like the idea of
Right.
Daemon dying or the dragons, but it would make a lot of sense.
It would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Ooh.
I know. But
my
the other
gosh,
thing I
yeah.
thought was curious about it is when Helena says he's yet to see victory, he sits on a wooden throne in
Yes.
reference to Aegon. And I was like,
Yeah.
what does that mean? I don't get what it means. I thought about it. The only wooden throne I could think of was the throne in Driftmark. That's made of like driftwood, but that doesn't really align with anything. I was very confused by that. But I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for that in season 3.
Well, I was wondering if she's talking about little Aegon and how Aegon's going to rule over like a destroyed throne. Because I think this battle is going to obviously destroy the Iron Throne as they know it currently for the time being. And maybe until it, I don't know, gets rebuilt again, like little Aegon will come in and kind of rule. Or it could just be like Aegon comes back, in the future since he's been escaped and hiding.
I think that's it. Because she says Aegon will be king again. So implying the current Aegon who was king is kind of not king anymore and will be again. So it's possible, but I feel like she is referring to Aegon, like Aegon the Realm's Delight.
Realm's Delight.
The Realm's Delight.
Interesting. Yeah.
Also, I just want to say that Fia Sabin, who plays Helena, she looks so beautiful in this scene. I don't know what it was about this scene, but I was like, oh my God. I remember in the trailer, like the clip of it, I'm like, has she always been that beautiful? Like, I don't know. I mean, of course she has, but in particular, in this scene, I don't know if it was like her makeup or her hair or just like the lighting, but she just looked like a goddess.
Yeah, I know. She looked very dreamy.
She did. Very ethereal. Yeah.
Yeah. Next, we have Rhaenyra and Adam. They, of course, ride to Harrenhal. And this is like, I know. Okay, see, once we're talking about all these scenes, I was like, there are so many good scenes in this. I like the episode a lot. I know at the beginning we were talking about how there's some sequences of things that felt kind of random. It didn't feel like a final episode. But to me, it did kind of feel final because it wrapped up a lot of like loose ends, so to speak, I guess. We kind of get the closure on some of the things that we needed to.
That's fair. Like I said, not a bad episode, a bad finale.
But anyways, Harrenhal being one of those sequences that we needed a conclusion to. Rhaenyra lands and Simon Strong, of course, comes out to greet her, stating, I must admit, I had much to fear. Come see for yourself. And they walk in. Syrax is flying in overhead. And inside, we see a huge gathered army. The crowd starts to part, and Daemon walks toward Rhaenyra. And he says, I wasn't expecting you. And I liked her response where she says, that seems rather a lapse in foresight. Daemon goes on to say that the men have sworn to him. And of course, Rhaenyra needs to know what he means by that. And she says, and to whom are you sworn?
Yeah. And she steps back and says it really loud, like clearly throwing down the gauntlet. Like everyone's about to hear what you're about to say. So make a choice now.
Right. And then I did think it was pretty strategic that Daemon chooses to start speaking in Valyrian at this point.
Soon. There's also a very quick cut to Alfred, and he looks guilty as fuck. He's like,
oh yeah.
Shit.
I know. Well, because he was doing some shady shit. So Daemon says the world is not what we thought it was. This is just beginning. Winter is coming with darkness and doom. And Rhaenyra's like, you take a page out of the Viserys' book there? Where'd you learn that from?
Right?
And Daemon says, I saw it. I saw that we cannot withstand it, yet somehow we must. The realm's only hope is a leader that can unite it, and my brother chose you. Then Daemon nails in front of Rhaenyra, and he says, "You are the true Queen Rhaenyra, first of her name, protector of the realm. I am meant to serve you and all of these
with
me until death or the end of our story." We see the rest of the men kneel down as well.
I literally had goosebumps. I love that quote.
I know.
Oh my God. And then at the end, when she says, "Leave me again at your peril," and he said, "I could not. I have tried. My queen." Oh my God. Yes. All the yes. Everything.
I know.
Good. Yes. Finally. This was the payoff for sitting through all of Daemon's bullshit in Harrenhal.
Oh my God. I know. Thank God.
Thank God.
Literally, thank God. I know.
Seriously.
It was just so epic because then he turns around and he like rallies the crowd. He says, "For every one of us who falls, 100 of them, there will be no mercy. We fight for our queen." And then everyone's like, "Ah."
Yes.
And then again, you see Simon. He's in the background again. This time he just looks like absolutely delighted. He's like, "I love this outcome. This is
He
great."
looks like a proud dad. He's like,
I know,
"My
he really
children."
does.
You know, I love Simon Strong. They better protect him. Him and Helena need to survive. That's all I care about.
I know.
Him and Helena.
Hopefully. We'll see. My only note was that was such a powerful scene. I loved
Oh
it.
my God. It was. I did too.
All right. So in the next scene after this, we have a chat between Corlys and Alan.
Oh, I gotta go sweet meats.
Oh, sweet
I got
meats.
you. Okay. A sweet delicacy prepared with sugar, honey, or like as preserves, candy, or formerly cakes or pastry. But why do they call them sweetmeats? A sweetmeat is just a food rich in sugar.
Yeah, it's like a weird term. Why not call it a dessert or a delight?
Oh, look. Okay, thank you, Reddit, from 9 years ago and our fantasy. Today I learned that sweetmeat, a common food mentioned in many fantasy books, is not sweetened meat, but simply refers to any candy or confectionery made of sugar or honey. All right. That makes it much less gross.
I know.
What? It's weird. Okay.
The only sweet meat I would want to eat is maybe some like bacon and maple syrup. But that's about it.
Yep.
Anything else doesn't sound great.
Here on Booked on Fantasy, we're happy to educate you guys. So that's what a sweetmeat is. So now, you know what would be funny? I'm going to teach my kids and be like, "Babies, you guys want some sweetmeats?" And then pop out like some candy. That's so weird.
I'd rather just call it a dessert.
Or a treat. Yeah.
A treat. I like treats. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like treats.
Oh my God.
But anyways.
Anyway, yeah.
Corlys has a chat with Alan and states, "I wish to set on good terms with my first mate." Alan looks a little bit confused, and Corlys confirms, "You've done what is asked of you and more, but you are curt, silent, and the men find you distant. You cannot lead if you do not inspire." Alan, of course, rightly is like, "Why are you giving me this advice now?" He says, "Well, I've never asked to lead it, as you well know." And Corlys says, "You've been given a position to which all who serve here aspire." Alan is really not having any of this conversation. He says, "Forgive me, my lord. I will endeavor to improve myself." And then he starts to turn to walk away. But Corlys is like, "Hey, I'm just trying to help you. Okay? Be grateful that I'm offering my help right now."
Mm-hmm. Oh, Corlys.
I know. And I was like, dude, this is not your greatest moment. But Alan finally explodes on him after being pretty curt and keeping it together through all these interactions for so long. Now is his moment. He's had enough. So he says, "Do you know what it was like for us to grow up fatherless, to be snared upon as bastards, never sure of the bread to feed us? Do you know what hunger does to a boy, what grief does, or shame?" Corlys tries to dismiss him again, which I thought was a little bit rude, but then Alan continues and says, "I sold fish in the market from cold dawn until sunset, putting my coppers to stave off winter, and I watched the man who sired me walk past with the sun and air, with a fur around his shoulders, choosing sweetmeats to eat after supper by the fire. And now that boy is dead, and his sister before him, and the heir that took his place. And now you remember I live. Now you wish suddenly scatter the crumbs of your favor. I am an honorable man, and I will serve you because I must. But if it all is the same, I will decline any offers of help. If I survive this war, I will continue as I began, alone."
Damn. What a fantastic monologue. And the actor did such a good job. And man, you feel it. It burns.
Yes.
And if I'm Corlys, I'm like, that got me fucked up. It's just really, really good acting here.
Yeah. I was going to say, I find the difference in the way that Adam and Alan respond to being Corlys's bastards pretty interesting. Adam does seem to want Corlys's favor, while Alan seems to not want him involved whatsoever.
Not mind it, but like actively dislikes it and does not want it, like pushes him away.
Yeah.
Which I can't say I blame Alan.
Exactly. I was going to say, I totally understand why, though, because Corlys wasn't there at all when they grew up, and yet now he's like trying to offer help. I would imagine it probably feels a lot like a slap in the face, because what good is that now? You know, you're already grown up. You're already kind of like doing your own thing. It's not helpful at this point. So,
yeah.
Especially if he's not going to like formally acknowledge them either as his sons, you know, it's probably easier just to keep the separation. So after this, we have another scene with Rhaena. She's made a little bit of progress because now she finally sees a dragon and she begins running after it. Progress. And then we get a brief scene of Rhaenyra and Mysaria standing outside overlooking the sea. Mysaria encourages her, but Rhaenyra is wary because it requires her to strike and kill innocents in the process. Mysaria gives her some encouraging words and says, "You know you are just. You must not let the realm fall to those who care for power more than peace. You must prevail." And Rhaenyra again asks, "And who pays the price?" Which is the ultimate question. Next, Rhaenyra is awoken from bed. She is led down to where the dragon area is. I don't know what they call that area, but I forget. Just like a little...
They lead her to a room where Alicent's chilling. Yeah.
A study.
Like the library area where all the scrolls are.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, we see Alicent. Alicent reveals what's been eating her away and how she'd grown up only doing what was expected because she didn't know what she wanted. And she's here now because she has lost her way. And she had said, "All those I put my faith in, my father, my brother, my lover." Rhaenyra calls her out for her hypocrisy on part of having virtue and says the incorruptible queen sullies herself with a lover.
Fair. But I will say Alicent's retort is also fair. She's like, don't, talk shit to me about something that you also did. So
exactly.
Both of them are wrong, but both of them are also right.
Right. And so this becomes another kind of airing of grievances that they've had with each other for quite a while. Alicent is like, "I had all this virtue. I lived in a way because that's what I thought I needed to do, et cetera, et cetera." She had
a very long, drawn-out conversation just about kind of the path that led them to where they are and how they got here. And there's some tension, obviously, between the two of them. I think Rhaenyra resents Alicent for the role she played in setting things into motion. And Alicent resents Rhaenyra for, I don't know, a lot of different things. It's pretty obvious these two need a little therapy session. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They get a lot to work through.
Exactly. The conclusion of this is Rhaenyra's like, okay, what are we really going to do about this? Yeah, what do you want? Because the war has already begun. Everything's in place now. It's going to happen no matter what. And they come to the conclusion that the only way Rhaenyra is really going to be able to rule is to kill off the opposition. And that obviously includes taking Aegon's head. She says, "Choose a son for a son." And Alicent does end up nodding in agreement to this. And
now, I don't want to diminish here that although Alicent does agree to this, which is absolutely horrendous and horrific, I don't by any means feel this is an easy choice for her.
Yeah,
I feel that she feels a great sense of anxiety and helplessness in the situation. And I feel like you have to ask yourself, I try not to think too hard about this because it made me really upset, but like, would I sacrifice one of my children if it meant saving the lives of tens of thousands of people, and saving the lives of 10,000s of people from events that I set into motion?
Right.
It's an impossible choice. It's horrible. And so I can't imagine being in that situation. But I do understand why Alicent comes to the conclusion that she does. You're talking about 10,000 people. Not to mention, I think she justifies it to herself in two ways. One, Aegon was actually kind of a horrible person for a long time. And two, she says to Rhaenyra, he sits in the dark in terror and pain, unknown about his future. He's broken beyond recognition. And I think she's justified it in her mind that basically sentencing Aegon to death is a mercy killing.
Right.
I don't agree. Well, I mean, I don't agree. I don't disagree. I don't know. But I can see her thought process and how she gets to where she does in this moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with everything that you just said. So after this, Rhaenyra does ask, well, okay, like what now? We've agreed to do with this, but what am I going to do with you? And Alicent responds, you let me go and fly to the Red Keep in 3 days' time. I cast myself at the mercy of a friend who lends love to me. And Alicent makes like a weird final plea where she's like, let them think what they must. Then she's like, come with me. But
It's
we're like,
weird.
what is that going to do? And Rhaenyra does not agree to that. She says, my part is here, whether I will or no. It was decided for me a long ago. And then Alicent leaves. So very interesting
Weird.
scene between them.
This scene is a little clumsy. The writing's a little clumsy. It just, once again, it's totally fucking insane that Alicent gets to leave King's Landing and sneak over to Dragonstone. I mean, some of the greatest parts about this show is the tension between Alicent and Rhaenyra and their friendship and their history and their shared experiences. And I feel like they've just done a bunch of weird things to that relationship and eliminated a lot of what made it interesting to see how it plays out on screen. And now it's like they're on the same side. I don't know. I didn't hate it, but I don't like it. And I think there are other things they could have done that would have been better for the narrative.
It was a little bit odd. It just felt like rehashing something that they had already tried to do earlier back in episode 3 when Rhaenyra had done the same thing and instead went to King's Landing and tried to plead with Alicent. But of course, that was also before anything like super, super major had happened, right?
Yeah.
And by this point, Alicent's coming in. We're like, okay. I mean, what you're offering would be monumental, obviously, if they do get Aegon. But also, we see that Aegon escapes with Blair's later, which is gonna throw a pretty huge wrench in this plan. Well, not that Alicent knows that. I don't think she does, but
I just feel like they did some real character assassination to Alicent here. Alicent is such, or rather has such amazing potential to be such a compelling and interesting character, right? She really could have gone in the direction of Cersei Lannister. You love her, you hate her, you support her, you don't, you understand her, you don't. And they just have made her character so confused and her motivations, and they've made her unlikable, but not unlikable and that you love to hate like Cersei. It just, they missed the mark here, which is really disappointing because I really love Alicent. And oh my gosh, I don't know why I cannot remember any of their names of the actress who plays her.
Olivia Cook.
Olivia Cook. Olivia Cook is an incredible actress, and they're just wasting it. They're wasting it. And it's incredibly frustrating to me. We'll see how it plays out. I have a feeling things are not going to go according to plan.
Oh, 100% not. I could see that going really badly too, in a variety of ways. Like, it could easily turn into a trap. Someone could find out, kill off Rhaenyra. I don't know. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Next, we are finally kind of at the final several sequences of events. So first we see Hugh, Adam, and Ulf. They're getting fitted in armor. Next we see Rhaena continuing to chase after the dragon. Alicent leaves Dragonstone, and then we also see, the High Tower's armies are marching. We see the Starks.
Dragon.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't
dragon
see the
flying
rider, but we do see Daemon's dragon flying overhead.
Yes, very quickly. Yeah. We see the Starks cross through the Twins. The Lannisters are also heading toward the Riverlands. Daemon steps out to overlook the army that he's gathered with the Rivermen. And Tyland sails with the newly recruited Triarchy pirates. We also see Alan and Corlys sail out as well. And then, finally, Rhaena has had the action she has long awaited.
Facing down
the dragon. Oh my God, I thought this was so funny because have you seen all those videos about like the cat distribution system and things like that? Okay, well, there's these videos where people like find stray cats, right? And everybody gets so excited. Everybody wants to find a stray cat. And so there's like the joke when you finally find the stray cat and it's like your turn to take in this kitty and have a cat now, right? They're like, oh yes, the cat distribution system. I feel like that's what's going on right now, but with dragons, you know? Rhaena's like
totally
been wanting to get a dragon for so long, and now she's like, yes, I finally found it. I found one, right? It's my time to shine.
Oh.
But anyways, per my Googling, I believe this is Sheep Stealer.
It is. Yeah.
And oh my gosh, he also just, I don't know what was going on. He looks a little ratchet in my opinion.
He's been through some shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's been living on the streets and he is struggling.
He's for the streets, not the sheets. Okay. Silverwing is a sheet queen. Sheep Stealer is a street king.
Yes.
He's out there fighting for his life every day.
Yeah, he looked a little scraggly.
He
He
did.
has not had the luxuries of wealth
That's true.
for his advantage.
He's scrappy. Yeah.
But he does look pretty cool. Like the structure of his wings and stuff were cool looking.
Oh, yeah.
And then, I think this was like
The final cut.
biggest. Oh my gosh, this was like the biggest jump scare ever. Okay, we see Otto
Yes.
in a cell.
A jail cell.
I was like, my jaw dropped. So this legitimately surprised the hell out of me. I was like,
okay, on the one hand, I was surprised, but remember, I feel like we kind of suspected that something was up because remember, a few episodes ago, Alicent was like, have you heard from father? I sent him letters. He hasn't responded. And I was even kind of like, what's going on? That doesn't seem like Otto to just disappear. But we thought maybe he's on the road trying to raise a host, whatever. My best guess is that on the way back to Old Town or on the way to somewhere, he was captured by members of Team Black. My guess is the Beesburys, because that gets mentioned quite a bit. And I want to say there's a physical location close to Old Town. And as we know, Lord Beesbury was killed near the morning that Aegon usurped the throne. And so they obviously have a bone to pick. So that is my best guess. But regardless, he has to have been picked up by someone, a house of Team Black.
But also, like, why had no one gone to get him yet? Like, the Hightowers are literally just marching without him. What were they doing?
I don't know. Like, nobody knows where maybe he had been like, I'm going to go to Bravos and try to do something. And they were like, okay, we'll see you later. I don't know. There has to be some logical reason why people are not worried they haven't heard from him. But it's kind of weird. Yeah.
I don't know. That was like definitely, I think, the most surprising thing that I saw. I was genuinely like,
oh, totally.
And then we also see Larys and Aegon. They leave King's Landing.
Yeah.
Then I think the final scene is just Rhaenyra and Alicent. And they're both they're both overlooking the sea from their respective places.
So one quick note for Alicent here. This is just kind of a minor thing, but I thought was interesting. So we talked not a lot, but we have talked about her costuming before and how she goes from a lot of blacks and reds to greens. And if you'll notice in the last few episodes, she's moving further and further away from green towards much lighter hues, like
bluish, I think.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And I think this is indicative of her character's journey away from Team Green. It's a physical representation of that, which makes sense given the actions she takes in this episode. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Ooh, nice note. All right. Well, that wraps up our analysis. And now let's move on to the Fantasy Court of Law.
All right. So for Team Green, the treaty that Tylan negotiates with the Triarchy to get Lohar and their navy to break the Gullet is super important and cannot be understated. If they're able to do that, one, you're going to destroy a lot of the naval fleet that Corlys has, and that's really important to Team Black's army. Secondly, you'll be able to get food to King's Landing, and that will alleviate a lot of the pressures in King's Landing. So that's going to be really important. Second, they, of course, still have Vhagar, and now we have confirmed Darren's dragon. We do get a brief glimpse of him, so that's going to be important. It is unlikely that Helaena will fight, but if she does, Dreamfire is definitely going to be a formidable dragon. As we mentioned earlier, it's either the third or fourth largest dragon. It hatched when Aegon the Conqueror was king, which was quite some time ago. So that cannot be ignored. Although, again, I do want to caveat that by saying I do not think that Helaena is going to fight. That feels very unlikely to me. And then last, of course, in that final montage, we see the Lannister army is marching as well as the Hightower host. The Lannisters and the Hightowers also have navies or naval forces. And so those are pretty formidable forces with a lot of weaponry and a lot of men. Obviously, we know Team Black has now raised their own army, but they're going to put up a good fight at bare minimum.
I think so too.
And then for Team Black, first and foremost, once again, They have all the dragons and riders, basically all the dragons. And that has not changed from last episode, but I just have to point it out because it's such a distinct advantage that they have going into the future. The second is that the army that Daemon has rallied at Harrenhal, as well as his public commitment to Rhaenyra, is vitally important to Team Black. I think it would have been catastrophic for Team Black had Daemon decided to go his own way with his army and created more division between Team Black, because then you're splitting a unified force between two people. And it would have caused a lot of infighting and would have been pretty catastrophic. So the fact that they've all now officially rallied behind one banner is super important, or one person, I should say. And then last but not least, Alicent and Rhaenyra's plotted coup d'etat. Can't ignore it. If it's legit, which it kind of seems like Alicent is being genuine, Rhaenyra can basically waltz right into King's Landing and take the Iron Throne. And that is obviously going to put her in a seat of power. Obviously, there's still going to be a lot of bloodshed and she's going to have to fight for it. But yeah, I don't think you can ignore that this plan is on the table and would greatly benefit Team Black if it goes according to plan. And that's
I
it.
agree. All right. Well, I guess before we wrap up here, do you have any interesting predictions or thoughts about the season that you want to share?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to rehash it again too much because we discussed it at the top of the episode, but I still stand by my analysis that this is a pretty decent season. And I think we had very high expectations because we always do. But this is really just a lot of world building, character setting up for future events. And I think season 3 is going to be a lot more action. I think we forget sometimes that Game of Thrones was, 7, 8 seasons long? 8 seasons. Yeah. And not every episode was the Battle of the Bastards. There were a lot of slow episodes that were intriguing, but important for the development of the story. And so overall, I feel good about the season. I feel good about how we're set up for the most part in this 3rd season. And also, I'm very sad that we have to wait freaking 2 years. My only major prediction is that I think Aemond and Daemon are going to battle it out over the God's Eye in the lake by Harrenhal. And I think they both drown. That's my best prediction.
See, I'm just wondering how they're going to drag this out into season 4. Because they've decided that they're going to have 4 seasons. But I'm like, what else are you really going to
So
do? Like, if you kill Vhagar, I was like, that's your main
So here's my thought.
dragon.
Again, I have not read the books. I have not know any spoilers. But this is how I think it's going to go. Well, it depends on what they decide to do and how far they take the story. I think you could pretty much wrap up the war in season 3. Do all the big battles, do all the main character deaths, whether Team Black or Team Green wins, I'm not sure, but whatever person takes the throne, right? But I don't think it ends when the war ends. I think there's some more plotting, scheming things happen before things are actually settled. So maybe season 3 is basically the wrapping of the war, and then it's the aftermath, but there's still a lot of things that happen and characters that haven't been introduced. Is my impression, but I'm really not sure. I really don't know.
Or maybe there's like some breakout skirmishes that occur from other houses or something. Well, that could be quite interesting.
Yeah. You have any major predictions for next season?
Yeah, I agree that I think we're going to get a lot of big battles and some pretty tragic deaths from major characters. I know. And that makes me almost like dread next season because, oh my God, after watching episode 4 from this season, I'm just like, I never want to watch another dragon death again.
Ever again.
I just...
Except for Vhagar. I don't care about Vhagar.
I know, but I mean, I do even feel for Vhagar because
I do,
you know, if Vhagar was on the other team, we wouldn't want Vhagar to die. And at the end of the day,
no, I don't like Vhagar because Vhagar is she's an old girl. It's time's up.
She's
time to go. Time to go, baby.
Let her retire and just, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Just die of natural causes or something.
Oh, my other prediction, this seems pretty obvious and heavy-handed, is that Rhaena's going to bond Sheep Stealer.
Yes, yeah.
That, I mean, if she doesn't,
that was
like,
just
what the fuck,
primed for that. Yeah. I agree. So, I think season 3 will be very exciting, but also very emotionally damaging. So,
absolutely, for sure.
That's pretty much, my only thoughts about that. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, we are almost done, so let's do our favorite moments. Do you want to go first or should I go first?
I'll go first. I'll do it quick.
Okay.
All right. I love Cole's only scene in this episode. It's very beautiful. Abian Frankel does an incredible job of delivering his monologue. It's true. It's true. I still don't like Kristen Cole's character, but I do find his story arc one of the most compelling, which is, I can't believe I'm saying that. That's such a huge departure of my I hate Kristen Cole, get flushed. But, things change, I guess. And then, who didn't love this scene? Daemon's entire scene with Rhaenyra at Harrenhal. I actually really like what he says specifically. I mean, first they talk in Old Valyrian, which, you know what that does to me. I love it. I just melt. And then when he kneels to her and he says, "You are the true Queen Rhaenyra, first of her name, protector of the realm. I am meant to serve you and all of these with me until death or the end of our story." And I just was so moving. It was so moving. And then at the end, when she says, "Leave me again at your peril," and he says, "I could not. I have tried."
I know.
My queen. I just loved it. And then, yeah, oh my gosh, I know. And then Corliss, the sweetmeat scene. It's a hilariously terrible name for that scene, but I just thought that was just really good acting. It was a good monologue, very well delivered. And I'm very interested to see where Alan's story has gone. He's probably one of my top favorite second tier characters. I'm just really interested to see how his story plays out. And so, yeah, those are my favorite moments. So what were yours?
Ooh, nice. So I actually, despite the complaining we did about the pirate scenes, I did like Lohar because I thought she was funny. I think she just she had a lot of funny lines.
Okay,
she's
fair.
like making fun of Thailand, and
Fair enough.
she's pretty witty, so
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Obviously, I also like Sir Simon. I will always love Sir Simon,
Oh,
and how
my
he
God.
obviously tells on Daemon and Sir Alfred to Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, they're trying to.
You need to get over here, girl. Things are they're
get
talking
over
about
here
you behind your
quick."
back.
Yeah, exactly. He's so funny. And then, yeah, I did really like the Daemon and Rhaenyra scene. But actually, more than that, I really liked Daemon's vision scene. I really liked just that whole sequence and how everything came full circle and brought a conclusion to what Daemon's been going on with in Harrenhal, but then also connected to the larger picture of the prophecy and then Game of Thrones and everything. So it was just a nice callback to that.
It is a really good one. Yeah, you're right.
And then my last one that I liked was seeing Sheep Stealer and how Rhaena just walks up on him and he's just chomping down on a sheep. Like he hasn't eaten in
going
days.
to town. Yes.
Yeah. He looks just so like
feral.
Yeah. Feral's a good word to describe him.
Oh, look, a strawberry.
Oh, look, a strawberry.
I love that audio. I love it.
Have no fear. Sheep Stealer they'll get him cleaned up in no time, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like it's like, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your sheep.
Hide sheep. I almost feel like I don't want Sheep Stealer to get bonded, though. Just because he's probably going to die. And had he just stayed a wild dragon,
I know.
Yeah, he wouldn't be subjected to that fate.
I know.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that officially wraps up our final episode for House of Dragon Season 2.
Whoa. I never thought we'd be saying that. Wow.
I know. It's been quite the season.
Yeah.
It's been quite the ride. So thank you all so much for joining us for another episode of the Booked on Fantasy podcast. If you would like to keep up with us on other platforms, then all of our socials are linked below in the episode description. And yeah, that's all we've got for you guys today. Stay nerdy, everyone. And we hope y'all will tune in with us for our Throne of Glass content that will be continuing in the future. So bye.
Bye. Just as funny in those episodes we're just as funny. Oh my God. We've left Westeros and oh my gosh. We've left Westeros. Corlys then tells Rhaenyra that he has named his newly free wait, I don't think I wrote Rhaenys, but I meant to write Baela basically tells him to get over it, while Rhaena once again, whoops.
Then Corlys says, Or sorry, I think this was Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra says Aemond thought himself invincible. He has now discovered he's... Oh, no, that was Corlys.